Up and Go with Alice.
You got Niu FM on your dial, and as promised, joining me in the studios right now, the director of the up-and-coming short film Liu, Jeremiah Tauamiti. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you in the studios because your short film Liu, I've just heard so many good things about it. A few of my mates actually worked crew on the
right.
film. Yeah. So it's creating a bit of online buzz. But for people who haven't heard about the short film before, tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so Liu was a short film set in Samoa in 1921, and it takes place during a time when New Zealand was administering Samoa on behalf of England. It's a courtroom drama, and it's about a native court interpreter. And he's a young man, and he sort of embraced the new way of life according to, the New Zealand administration and how they want and perceive Samoa to be. And it's just about him and how he does his job as an interpreter, and he actually one day ends up translating for a very traditional woman chief, an older woman chief. So it's kind of a clash of two worlds. This is,
it's incredible for you as well, because I mean, you've been dealing with bringing Pacific stories to the screen for ages. I mean, you work with Coconut and Fresh and Malosi Pictures. So for you to have this project, come into existence, like what has that been like?
It's been a long journey.
How long?
Yeah, I mean, worked on Fresh and Coconut, and they're two shows or two platforms where they're really pushing boundaries and opening up avenues for a lot of up-and-coming Pacific film and television workers. And so, but it's been really good to see the development as well of Pacific people on screen. Working with those guys, I was able to adapt to the changes. We kind of knew, and we also, working on those shows, we were able to make contacts in different places. So we got to travel to Tonga quite a bit, and also Samoa.
Yeah, I think you've been to Tonga more times than me, and I'm actually Tongan.
Yeah, it's been cool. And when we went to Tonga once, we met people, potential actors, and we kind of always knew that we wanted to go back to Tonga or to Samoa or wherever, but we knew that sooner or later we were going to, write something that we know our people care about.
I love that you mentioned there, you're creating stories that our people actually care about, because like Liu was set in a time, still a controversial period of history in Samoa, especially with, in regards to New Zealand governance. Did any of those like kind of past sort of feelings like crop up during the time you were filming?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, there was talk of just because of the cost of making, this kind of production, which is a period piece in another country. There was talk of us possibly doing the film in New Zealand, but it's just not the same. Like, our people are, and I think it's important too to acknowledge that for filmmakers as well, it's all right for our people to be grounded in our own culture, which is the land that we stand on and come from, and the ocean. So we wanted to go to Samoa. We knew it was going to be a big cost, and when we got there, it was surreal, standing in the land where the struggle took place and standing on the dirt that people died for. So those sorts of things, without sounding too weird or trying to be spiritual, it was a real spiritual journey. It sort of reminded me of the responsibility that we carry, being there on the land. I guess that's the bigger picture, is that it's no longer just about you and your personal little journey or vision. It's about the bigger story.
Speaking of which, we want to find out a little bit more about Liu, and we'll do that after the break. Stay tuned. We're going to come back with Jeremiah Tauamiti, short film director of Liu. Stay tuned to Niu FM.
This is Up and Go with Alice. Up and Go with Alice.
You tune into the Bit of the Pacific, Niu FM. Still joining me in the studios, the director of the up-and-coming short film Liu, Jeremiah Tauamiti, is still with us. And we're talking a little bit more about Liu. The subject matter for this film is almost, I don't want to say metaphor, but kind of is of, the relationship between Pacific people in this country. In New Zealand, you have this person interpreting for this woman. There's so many things that get lost in translation, especially, with Pacific people living in this country, trying to get our problems and our issues across. Was that sort of intentional?
Yeah, because like for myself, being a New Zealand born, like you say, there's always things that are lost in translation. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's still happening to this day. And I kind of see Solo, the main character, who's the interpreter, I kind of see him being like New Zealand born, you know, being that representative who has to try and navigate two different worlds. And often, you know, whether you're New Zealand born or Afakasi, a lot of the time you are sort of struggling to find your way in both worlds. And that's not always what you want. Like some people, you know, being New Zealand born, you're always trying to prove that you are an islander, you know, that you're real, that you're genuine. And then when you get to the islands, they're like, nah, you're not, you're a Kiwi.
Yeah.
You're Parangi or whatever. And the same for Afakasis, you know, I know that they're often trying to find their place as well and not necessarily accepted. But yeah, I guess, you know, that was sort of, you know, you write from what you know the best. But I kind of feel like you can actually find a good balance, you know, and that's what happens with these two characters.
Yeah.
But hopefully it makes for good viewing, you know.
Yeah. It is going to make for good viewing because, I mean, well, first of all, like, you got some heavyweights on this film. Peter Hayden, who was named for the Queen's Honours list this year, and also Welese Petaya from 1000 Ropes.
Yeah.
That was a real shock to see him in the short film because I didn't realise he was a thing. So how did you get these people on board?
To be honest, we kind of, I mean, you make, you know, when you're writing, you kind of have people in mind.
Oh, yeah.
When you're writing, I had met Welese very quickly on 1000 Ropes. I mean, he's a legend. Like, not many people know of his credentials, you know. I sort of put out an email to him, and he said yes, and he didn't have to. I mean, man, he's an amazing actor, an amazing man. But he did, and he was really giving of his time, and he was such a professional on set as well. But, you know, Islanders, they know when to have a good laugh too. So he was just a real character. And Peter Hayden, I actually met him, almost 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when I just started writing Le Leo. And so I had the opportunity to work a scene from Le Leo with him, and he was he played the judge about 4 or 5 years ago, and it just worked out that he was available. And again, you know, he's amazing, man. And when we went to Samoa, he just went full on every day.
Wow.
Just a real professional. And funny story, like when we had our first table reading, Welese and Peter Hayden actually worked in the same building in the 70s, and Welese recognised him, and he said, and we were doing our reading, and at the end of the reading, he said, yeah, I remember you. We both worked at blah blah blah, and so a small world.
Oh my gosh!
But just two real champions of screen, both in the Western world, if you want to say it like that, and also Pacific cinema as well, or at least a Pacific representative in mainstream film. So, and they were real professionals and really. I think it was a good opportunity for the young actors to really work with them. So we were really blessed,
Man, that would have been a mean opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, just after the break, we're going to find out how we can help this short film, Liliu, make it to the international circuits, man. Endless possibilities for this film, but we need your help to do that. Stay tuned. We're still joined in the studios with director Jeremiah Tauamiti.
Up and Go with Alice. Up and Go with Alice.
Still joined in the studios with director Jeremiah Tauamiti, and we're wrapping things up and getting to know a bit more about how we can do our part to get the short film Liliu across the table. You've finished completed filming of Liliu, and now it's like the next leg of hard work. You guys are working on a boosted campaign, right, to raise funds for post-production?
Yeah. So, you know, most short films in New Zealand, they're funded, and people sort of always assume that if you've got funding in New Zealand for any kind of film project, that it's going to be a lot. You know, and people always like, oh, how much am I going to get paid? You're going to pay me. But the truth is, you do get funding, and you're obviously always stoked to get it and grateful. But depending on what your project is, it's most of the time it's just not enough.
Yeah.
And the strange thing about New Zealand is that we're actually very, very good at making films, our country.
Yeah.
But in saying that, it does cost money, So we've got a booster campaign, which we always knew we were going to have to do, especially because we travelled to Samoa. So we're trying to raise $10,000 for post-production, which, to some people might sound a lot, but it's actually not that much.
Yeah.
It's going to get taken up and used very quickly. 10,000 is what we're going for, but the real goal is probably 15. We're halfway at the moment. We're just over $5,000.
Oh, wow.
So we've still got a way to go, and we've only got maybe just over a week left.
Well, I mean, the project is definitely one well worth funding, and we're going to be reaching out to all our Pacific communities here to make sure that they, every little bit counts,
Every little bit counts, man. Every dollar counts, seriously.
But just so they know, what are your hopes for the short film and where it'll end up, so that they know where their money's going?
We kind of got big goals for the
Yeah.
film. I don't think there's actually been a historical Pacific short film that has gone to one of the big festivals, one of the big A-list festivals.
Yeah.
There's been a few films that have done well, but never a historical one, a time period film.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our goal. We want to make this film and get it ready for the big screen in one of the A-list festivals like Cannes or Sundance or something like that.
Wow.
And that's always been the goal.
Well, now the people know where their money's going to. This film could possibly end up in Cannes and Sundance all across the world. So make sure you get along and support. We're going to be posting up all the links on our social media as well. But we wish you nothing but the best, brother. Like, we really hope that this film Liliu makes it to the worldwide stage, because you're not just going to be taking yourself, your hopes and dreams. You're going to be taking the rest of us with you as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through the studios.
Awesome, malo.
This is Up and Go with Alice.